welcome to Crafting with Jane. My name is Jane Allmark and today we're doing more on scraps. I'm obsessed with scraps at the moment, as you can probably tell, but there are so many fantastic things that we can do with scraps and I've been playing with them quite a bit now, and so I thought today we would do two different cards. One which is going to have a black background, one which is going to have white, just to show you two different ways of doing it. And what I've done is I have cut some scraps in 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch. So we are going to put these pieces down and I'm hoping that we're going to get the two out of them. I think we will. So I'm going to start with a, they should fit exactly down on here. Yes, they do. So I've cut them the length of my card. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put them down, but with a little bit of a gap in between, so that you get this, this gap coming through, which looks rather nice. So the first piece is going to come. The white is quite difficult. I'm actually going to do it onto my board here because then you can see it rather than onto the paper. So I'm going to take it from the end and literally just put it straight down onto there. As I say, we can trim it up if we need to. And then I'm going to do exactly the same with the piece for the black. And then we'll be doing two pieces at the same. So I'm literally just going to put this one on here. The black's easier to see, but obviously the white on a white base is more difficult. But I try and do it so that I've got something underneath so that my table doesn't get, although my table does get quite covered in all sorts. Okay, so that was our 1/2 inch. Now we're going to do 1/4 inch, and we're going to do 1/4 inch in the next color. So again, I'm using, these are blues and purples because I fancy blues and purples, but you can do whatever you happen to have in scraps. So I'm going to leave just a little bit of a gap in between. Size of gap really doesn't matter, whatever you fancy. I suppose mine's about 1/8 inch. And then I'm going to do exactly the same with the white one. And this is the 1/4 inch little piece. So I can put this piece in on here, making sure that I'm in. Yes, I am. And again, just a little bit of a gap, not a huge one, just a little bit, and you can do whatever size gap you want. So that's, and you can do different size gaps. Okay, so now we're going to do another one of the 1/4 inches. And I'm using wet glue because I like wet glue. You can use whatever glue you want. This is Tombow, and you can get Tombow absolutely everywhere. So it is, in my opinion, I've been using it for years now, and it is one of those glues that you know it's going to stick absolutely perfectly. You can buy it on Amazon with lots of like a multi-pack. So if you're somebody that uses a lot of Tombow, you can buy the multi-packs if you want to. I'm going to swap these over as I go. So this one is going to be, and again, I just want a little bit of a gap in on here. And it doesn't, as it starts to grow, you can see the gap a little bit more. So now we are, what colour? This is the last one. So the last one's going to be a tiny one again. So do this with the tiny one. And again, just put your colours out so you know that you're doing alternate colours, because on this one you don't want it to be random, you want it to be alternating the colours. So this one is going to have a little bit of that in there. but it's quite good if you've cut a few scraps like this in strips, is to actually do 2 cards at one time, and you can do whatever colour you want really. It's good to do a monochrome, so either black or white, because then we're going to be putting it onto a base anyway, so you don't want too many colours going on. I'd choose a neutral anyway rather than a bright, unless you wanted it. I suppose you could have bright on bright if you wanted to. You just have to make sure that the colours worked quite well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now we can go back to the blue, and this is going to be a small one. So we're going to have a small one next to a small one, but that doesn't matter because we're doing it in the colour. So this is going to be the blue, and we'll have a little space on here, like that. Turn it down to the other one, and we'll use the other blue. And again, like everything, I think probably I will be trimming it down a bit, because I always try and do it so that it's a little bit bigger, because once you've trimmed it, you've got nice, neat edges. Even if you tidy them up with scissors, they don't tend to be as good as if you've trimmed it right at the end. Really blowy weather out there today. So I think we're at a stage where everything is, we've had Storm Noah the other week, and I don't know what we've got out there at the moment, but I've got my washing out, and I was just having a quick look out the window to make, I craft in my back room, which has got a lovely lantern light, and also it's got a big patio, so it's patio doors, so it's got the most amount of light, and which is lovely, so I can actually look out of the window and see what's going on. And there was a bit of a crash, so I was just making sure that everything wasn't falling down and my washer wasn't sailing across down the garden, but I don't think it was. I think we're all right. So just put this onto the next one, and then I think we're just going to have this one in on the last one, and hopefully that will be, we've used them all. So this might not, this might just come over the edge a little bit, but that's fine because we can trim it afterwards. As I said, I've done them a little bit over. So that's that one. And then this one, we want the little one first and the other. But you can see the difference by doing the 2 different colours, which I think is quite fun. So we've got this one, which is the black, and I might get that one on. I think I've done that one a little bit better. It's difficult to tell. You find, as you work your way down, unless you're doing, I don't mind the distance of gaps between here. I really don't. I think it's fine to have whatever gap you want. So this is going to come in just in like that. So that is going to come over a little bit, but as I say, doesn't matter too much. Okay, so I've got a little piece on here which I do need to trim off, and I'm going to do it with my scissors for now because we will be trimming the whole lot off, but because I've got some glue on it, I don't really want to have glue going into everything. So I'm just trimming that piece off in on here. Then we are going to take, I'm going to trim it down first of all, because I want to trim it to come down into, I've got a mat for each one. So this is going to be trimmed down to whatever size your card is when you've got your mat. As I say, I always do it a little bit. For me, it's going to be 5 1/4. So I need to do 1/8 of an inch off of each side to just trim it up nicely. So 1/8 of an inch off of there, then that comes to 5 1/4, and it just means that any little pieces that aren't completely straight, that you are going to get it completely straight. So this is then going to be, what do we want this at? 3 1/2, didn't we? So is it 3 1/4? Yep. So I want 1/8 on there. Which just trims that bit, and then we'll have 1/8 on here. And you can see how it automatically just neatens it up beautifully, and just makes it look lovely. So the difference between this and this, it just makes it look smarter. So this one is, again, we want it to 5 1/4, so 1/8 of an inch off of each side is all we need. So that's one piece. Take it off the other one to the 5 1/4. Oh, I'm on here. Yes, I am. Like that. And then this is going to be 5 3, and so take that down to, I want it 3 1/2, so that's 1/8 that way. Oops, did it go? Yes, it did. And this one to 3 1/2, like that. Okay, so now we've got both of our pieces as we want them, and you could leave it just like that if you wanted to, but what I want to do is I want to take it up to the next level and make it really rather fun. So we've got a black one, we've got a white one, and I've got a border in on 2 different shades of purple. So just picking up the tones of your paper. You could do it in plain if you wanted to. I just wanted to do it in 2 different ones like that. And so I'm going to, first of all, I want to run these through an embossing folder. And I was looking out, I told you I was doing some clearing and sorting, and I found these lovely embossing folders, and this one is Pretty Print. It's an old one, you might be able to find it on somewhere like eBay or whatever, but it's got lovely script on it, and I really like that. So I want to have it in on here, and I'm just going to run it through my embossing folder. My die cutting machine. So put that in like that, and we'll have the platform out where we want it, and we'll put one in. I think sometimes when you do die cuts and you run them through an embossing folder, it just makes them look absolutely fantastic. So I've got one like that, just about get that through. So that's that one, and then we can look out and see, and you've then got the lovely embossing on there. And then I'm going to do the other one exactly the same. Just put that in and put it through. I quite like these words because they're quite subtle, but they also just make it look beautiful. Now this time I'm just going to bring it back through this way. Doesn't really matter, but I'm only doing it because it makes more sense for me than to try and jump it up and down. So let's just move that out of the way and I can tidy that up later. Okay, so we now have that embossing folder as well. And you can see, you can't really see the words very well on here, but what I'm going to use is something which I've got virtually every colour that you can get. And this is Pebeo gilding wax. You get it in different colours. This is gold, and I think it's just gold. There's gold, copper, silver, and as I say, this one is gold. And you literally, I think I've got glue on my finger, so that's probably not the best. I might have to do it with this finger. What you do is you take just a little bit of it out like that. You can put it on here because you don't want too much. You just want a tiny bit. And what you're going to do is you're just going to very gently rub it over where the words are. So you just gently rub it over. Now I don't know how much it's going to show up on screen. Hopefully. You don't want to do it too much, because if you do it too much you'll end up with it going more than just on the words, and you just want it to go on the raised part. So you can see that as I'm, hopefully you can see, that's a bit better on there. I've done it a bit deeper. But you can run your finger across, either just slightly round and round, so that you just pick up the raised bit. What you don't want is to have bits of embossing or bits of gilding flake everywhere. Not gilding flake, gilding wax everywhere. I've been using gilding flakes today, that's why I've got my... So you want to just do it gently so it doesn't come up everywhere, and that's why I say to dab it off, because you just want, I hope you can see, I'm just taking just a little bit, and that's why you can always add, it's the same with everything, you can always add more, but you can't take it away, and you want it to be really just quite smooth. You don't want a lot on it, because otherwise it really sort of spoils it and you end up getting it everywhere. And with the black it's quite nice because it goes into the black. So hopefully if I put this up like that, you can see, can you see how it's just picking up the lettering on there? So I'm going to do the white one as well, and we'll see what that looks like. And again, tap it off into the lid so that you don't get a lot. I'm sure you can get this in most countries. I've had mine for, oh my goodness, 5 years maybe, probably. I bought it at a craft show over, in fact the craft show is going to be on again this year, and I always go to it. It's on for 2 days, and it's really rather good, so I will hopefully be able to, I think it's coming up in about September time, so I will be hopefully take my camera and do a bit of videoing for you so you can actually see some of the different crafts and things down there. They do all sorts of things, and you know, some new ideas, some of the same ideas, but it's quite fun, and I must admit I do enjoy just doing some of the, they always have what I call free workshops and things to do, so you can get an idea of different things and, you know, different ideas, which I think is always good. And as I say, I have so much, as I keep saying, I have so much now that I don't actually need to go buying a lot, but it's good to go for ideas. You know, I think it's exactly the same as you know, my channel is here to give you ideas and inspiration, rather than, you know, be just promoting one different thing over another. I do try and sort of do things which are quite fun, and you can use any products that you want, which is, I think, half the fun with crafting. Okay, so apart from, you know, things that like this, so this is the, let's bring that one up so you can see how it literally just picks up on the embossing bit, and it just gives a really lovely look. Now once it's on and it's been dried just for a second or so, you need, I've got some kitchen roll here, and what you need to do is, let's do this one because it's been sitting there a bit longer. You need to burnish it, so you literally just rub it over and it will bring up the gold on the raised parts beautifully, so you get a real shine. So hopefully you can see that, and it's quite subtle. That's the idea. You don't want it so that it you know, completely spoils it. You want it so it just literally gives you that glint on there, and just because you've embossed it, it just gives another texture. So we're now going to put this onto our bases. Again, my frugal tip, always cut things out of your bases because nobody's going to see it. You put that down and that's your mat. Nobody's going to see what's underneath. So you don't have to worry about it. I'm going to be using wet glue again, I think, or I might actually use a tape runner on this because I want it to stick down reasonably well. So give me 2 seconds to pick up. I've got I've had a couple of them out, and one was actually very good. So we'll have to see whether I can do it with this, and if I can't, then I'm not going to overly worry. But I just want to go down the side. But it's probably, I will get more. Yes, this one's quite good. I will get more. It'll be easier to stick because obviously you've got the embossing, and that means that you have to get your glue into the little corner pieces, whereas this one seems to work quite well. So, and this was actually given to me, but it's it seems to be a better one than I was using one the other day, as you know, and that was absolutely terrible. So let's just get that on there. I can put that down, and I need to pick it up and make sure I've got the wording coming the right way. Even though you can't read it, you know when things are, it's a bit like music, you know when it's the right way round even if you can't read it. So and it's a bit like that. So I'm going to do this with this one as well, right down on the edges, because I've cut it away. I don't want it in the middle, so I'm just going down the edge. But this is actually quite good, this one. I think it's a dotty one rather than a runner one, and maybe that's what I should look at getting. As I say, I was given this one, but it's I can't remember. It doesn't actually say on there, I don't think. Oh yes, it does. 15 meters of dot glue. So dot glue seems to come out better than flat glue, because of the other glue always seems to get gunked up and the runner doesn't run. And I know from the comments before that it's the same for you guys as well. Okay, so now we've got this beautiful, bearing in mind that all of this has been done just with scraps and just a few sheets, but what beautiful colours they are now. So I've taken a few. This again is very, very old, but any die cut you've got, this was called Sunshine Wishes, long time ago, and I've just die cut that out and I've put it onto a white mat because I wanted it to be to stand out a little bit more. And I think I'm going to put this in with this in on top like that on them. So I think I'm going to have that on there with that in on top. And I think that that will work quite nicely. Oh, next door's dog's going out. It must be that time. Now, what I could do is add a little bit of the gold to this as well. Let's have a little look and see. We could add just a little bit to just give it a little bit more of a... So I'm just literally just going to rub a little bit over on here. Doesn't have to be too much. Just to give a little bit of colour on here. We could use, this is another thing that I was doing, you could use gilding flakes as well, but the nice thing about this gilding wax is that it literally just gives a hint of, you can cover it completely, don't get me wrong, but if you're very gentle with it, you just get a little bit of a hint. And I think that that works really well. So I'm just doing that on there because I think that that will, yes, that will tone it in beautifully. And I'm going to do it with this as well. So let me just take this on here. And you can see I'm trying to not do too much. Just enough to give it a little bit of colour on there. Now you can see I've got some in on the white part, but I don't think that that matters too much. It's only because I've got some on the front of my finger, but because we're putting this in over the top, that's not going to show too much. And in fact, I think that looks really nice. I'm going to do it on the other one as well, because it will just break it up a bit. And as I say, I do love the way gilding wax literally just adds that little bit of a shine to it. I'm doing this a little bit quicker, so it might be more on the white, but I don't think it'll matter hugely. Just take this on here, try and do it over on the side piece without rubbing it into the middle. And you always get a nice silver. It does wash off in water, so you know, don't worry about getting it all over your fingers, but it's it is something I'm really, in fact I might on here just give a little bit in on here, because then that just gives a little bit of a hint in the center of that one, because I've already gone over it. So I'm doing that on there, and I might just do a little bit of a hint just in on the center of here as well. Okay, so let's take this, and I just need to now burnish it off, because that gives it that nice like shiny polishy look to it. So just give it a little bit of a rub. And that gives it, as I say, just gives it a nice, just burnishes it off. So then we will have, that's that colour in on there on the centre, with these words in just over the top like that, and then this one can go in that way with the words over the top like that. And you then have, I put it onto a white card base, but you can see how beautiful that is. And as I say, if you didn't want to have it like that, you could put just the sunshine in there, which might look quite nice. If you didn't want it too busy and you wanted more of your background, just have that up at just a little bit of an angle. In fact, I think I prefer that. I think this is too much. I think I'd need to cut this out. I think, you know, that works perfectly, and maybe just a little flower or something like that on it. So I'm going to leave it like that for you, because that's given you the idea. It's the background and just taking it up a level. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, please stay safe and well. Please be kind, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye bye.